Digital transformation. Where should insurers focus on for most impact, for sustainable competitive advantage? How should they tackle the hurdles? How can insurers move from pilot safaris to implementation at scale? How can insurers ensure buy-in from their workforce and make sure that they are sufficiently upskilled to use all those new technologies? Many questions, but probably even more answers. Talkshow host Alexander Parushke, managing partner at Epcor, is in charge of answering all sorts of provocative questions on how to create digital transformation at scale.
Let's start with Graham. Graham, you are you're in charge of strategy and product marketing, P&C, at Sapiens, right? Usually when we talk about digital transformation at larger carriers, I always say that larger carriers has the ability basically of providing two main assets. The one is covering the customer interface with a established brand, trying to provide real solutions to the end customers, as well as having in place the regulation. And this is why a technology provider like yours is so important, because it brings in part of the needed agility and trying to change a little bit of the way the carriers have been doing stuff throughout the past years.
Yeah.
So let's start a little bit with that mindset and try to talk about a little bit about what are certain projects and activities that eventually led to tangible results in those organizations.
So this isn't a diversity and insurance panel, which is what I was expecting. I said this one earlier. So look, there's a couple of things going on at the moment, and you talk about digital transformation. Everyone's doing it. We're talking about scaling it. Everyone's trying to scale it, and it almost becomes table stakes. But I think one of the most important things to do is to put all of this into some sort of context. So, why are we so interested at the moment? And I call this the coming battle for the consumer. And this is what the executives of the insurance companies that we work with are telling us. And this is all around three main things. Number one, car manufacturers. Car manufacturers are now buying insurance software. And you're like, why on earth are you buying insurance software? Well, they're not buying it for production purposes. They're buying it because they understand mobility, they understand subscription services for vehicles, and they understand that they're going to be selling insurance in the near future very differently than what they have done in the past. The second motivation for insurers to invest in this is, going back to who owns the consumer, is literally the amount of data that the new breed of digital banks are having as well. So if you think about how much data a digital bank owns about the customer, who they're paying, what they pay, even the insurer are paying, that's astonishing. And we spend a lot of time looking at proxies for risks, and the banks have actually got a customer base, and they've got all this data on top of it. So when we're in front of our insurance organizations and the customers we represent, we're getting a lot of traction now, because this is their mindset. Like, okay, things are changing. We haven't even talked about embedded insurance, by the way, and the retailers and their power. We could add that as a third one, but that's very, very common now. And it's like the light bulb has gone on in the executive layer going, hey, we need to get this right now, and we need to invest in it, and we need to harness the power of the ecosystem. We need to lever and leverage some of these organizations that can, many of the 200 of them out there that you've seen, we need to bring them in, and we need to kind of work this out, because we understand that there's a coming battle for the consumer, and we want to remain relevant in that game.
Okay. Well, that's great. But let's try to dig a little bit into those parts that may have gone wrong throughout the past years, and that you maybe have tried to implement in larger carriers, without making names, but just conceptually speaking. I'm really interested in what are the real difficulties you're seeing while you implement apparently a very good fit of solutions within larger carriers, and why it didn't work out throughout the, let's say, past year or so. Just name some of the examples.
Hang on a minute, we're Sapiens, we don't do wrong. We do right first time, every time. We've got 600 insurance customers across P&C, life, reinsurance, etc., etc. So it's the full scale. So look, there is an issue here. It doesn't necessarily go wrong, it just necessarily doesn't go as right as it could be. And what I mean by this is an organization will say, right, we're going to, let's call it digitalize. We're not going to call it digital transformation. And the one I've worked more recently with, where we can describe this story a bit, is they chose a product line that had no volume to it. It was called pregnancy. I know a lot of people get pregnant and all the rest of it, but not as many people that would buy motor insurance or home insurance. So they started with pregnancy, and you kind of go through this whole process, blah, blah, blah. Looks really, really good. Reduce the cost of onboarding customers, self-service, all the things you would expect from a mature digital platform. And the feedback was, well, where's the ROI in this? You know, we want to put the whole business this way, we want to change the technology stack, it's all going to be cloud, but where's the ROI? And I'm like, you didn't see volume, you chose some pregnancy thing, which only 50,000 people a quarter are buying, versus motor policies where 500,000 people a quarter are buying. And I think I've learned a lot from that is, you know, go for the stuff that scales, that makes a difference, because once you understand that, you deal with all the problems quicker, you're dealing with high frequency, you're dealing with the kind of volume issues that you would expect to see, and you know what, you uncover stuff wrong first, but also you get to the ROI very, very quickly. So the traditional approach has been like, oh, let's start very soft and gentle, we'll work our way up to the big products, like, no, just get on with it, do it, because you're going to save a lot of time, you're going to save a lot of money, and you're going to energize the business a bit more.
Okay. Well, one topic I'm really interested in is mindset and how to accelerate, you know, ways of doing things, how to fail fast, how to do it in a very compelling way. As a technology provider and having or being in the position where you do lots of projects throughout the year with lots of different type of clients. What can you tell us about those interactions and transfer of knowledge that you know, implicitly provide the organizations with? How's this working?
So this is a question about people and employment and bringing people into the organization. How many of you are struggling with recruitment at the moment? Everybody. No one's going out to recruit bad people. The mindset is we want to bring the best people in technology into our world. And this is a really nice way of thinking about it, right? Who are the biggest technology companies that use data? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and there's one called Tinder as well, but I don't know what that does. They're the top 4. And you look at the compliant data sets that insurance companies hold around the person, the consumer, the business, the physical objects, and how they interact in a real world environment. You go, hey, that should be inspiring. If I go and work for Facebook, my ultimate job is selling adverts, for God's sake. So look what we can do as an organization, look what we can do in terms of the technology, look what we can do in terms of the inspiration we provide to people. You used to say, like, the mindset should be, hey, come to insurance because the opportunities are greater than any of those organizations that I listed before. And I think that mindset has to change. We're always quite passive about insurance. Look out there, the technology, look at the data sets. If I'm a data science, I'm working with some of the largest available compliant data sets. We should be like a magnet for talent. We should be a magnet for people coming into our industry. And we should be attracting the very best.
Graham, thank you very much. I would like to switch sides right now, coming from a service provider side, from technology provider sides, to one who's brave enough to take on the challenge as the Chief Digital Officer of Zurich, Spain, to try to push digital transformation from within a, let me say, huge coloss, huge company, huge conglomerate. And I would like to present to you Stefano Di Ligurio, who is actually in charge of providing those kind of solutions and partnering with organizations, with providers from the outside, trying to make it happen in the inside towards the clients. So Stefano, can you give us a quick glimpse about what and how you guys have built up a solution in order to handle customer inquiries and give out quotes and the possibility of doing that all online and digitally?
So first of all, many thanks to all of you and also to allow us to be here today. So if I see back in 2018 was clearly a big challenge. So big organization, winning a lot of money, to be honest. No such rush and urgency to change the business model. And so incubating the virus within the company was quite complicated, to be honest. Then the pandemic made the things change it. But at the beginning, the real reason why we create all the digital business was because of customer. Always because of customer, not because of using technology or expanding, let me say, our digital capability. It was always because we have identified that there were a very big target of customers that start thinking in a very different manner than those ones that goes to agents and broker, and not just in terms of distribution, but in terms of product. So all the time they think that the very important product were motor, household, and this is true. These are let me say, the most used one. But the way how we approach the customer changed completely. Mm-hmm. So they are not thinking all the time a very traditional annual policy that is the same for everybody. For example, in household, there are now renters people that use the house just temporary. They are co-livers and so on. So essentially what we have defined is a new business model, not a technology company, but this new business model, let me say, try to capture the attention of those customers that really have the intention to personalize also the insurance and to have them much more linked to their lifestyle. No? Mm-hmm. And this obliges us to use technology, to use digital and to be embedded, let me say, within their life. For the reason we start in a direct-to-consumer mode, and then we probably change to much more partnership approach to be there in the right moment when they need it. You know? The main challenge, now we have, let me say, all the line of business, including life, health, that we launched one month ago. But the most complicated stuff was to translate the very big complexity of a company like Zurich in the phone of the customer. Mm-hmm. And without any, let me say, friction, and the customer could perform everything digitally without any piece of paper, neither other information, directly in their phone. And this is probably the things that we have, probably in my opinion, done better.
Yeah, one of the challenges of this beautiful sector, the insurance industry, is the fact that you have to monetize those few touch points you have with the final customer and generate some kind of value because you don't have so many opportunities. And you were talking about collaboration, partnerships. When we talk about those kind of stuff, we have to talk about the necessity to, in a way, integrate yourself into ecosystems, trying to provide value through third parties. And when we talk about that, actually we have to talk about the buzzword embedded, right? Embedded when you are able to provide this abstract insurance product, you make it come to life and attach it to an emotion of the client itself, because in the right moment at the right place, he is able to value really that insurance policy as not as an abstract policy, but as something who is related to something else he's purchasing. So I would like you to explain a little bit about the experience you have, coming up or putting into place this B2B2C model, and maybe stuff that didn't work out in the first place, but then you got it right.
So let me be very bold on this. At the beginning was direct to consumer because we should understand the customer what they want. Okay, so you need the direct feedback of the customer. But then when you jump into the partnership, so the first challenge was that we face a completely different business. So even embedded from a concept perspective seems simple. We say to our CTO, create some API and that's all. This fantastic word, this magic stuff of an API. At the end, this does not work. Okay, because just with an API, you can go and fulfill a fantastic PPT, a presentation. You'll be in front of the partner, but when the reality came there, all of them need something different. So embedding, in my opinion, is personalization, but from a partnership perspective, not from a customer perspective. Mm-hmm. So what the system, what we have learned now with multiple partners that we have, retailers, Orange, Media Market, and Phone House, and all of this, but also banks, that even though the technology could be more or less the same, the way how you should integrate depends on their business model. And the business model are completely different from one company to the other. Mm-hmm. So let me say that the experience is fantastic because all the time that we sit with one of them, we have to change the way how we approach the integration and the business model. The important thing is that we should be relevant. The sentence is the relevance. So we should be there in the right moment when the customer, because nobody is going inside a retailer and say, now I will go and buy a fantastic insurance product. No one. But they should understand the relevance in the moment that they purchase the product, and we should be relevant with the right product attached to the original one.
Okay. I can imagine that in such a large organization with, of course, a huge layer of legacy systems and back-end systems, it's not always easy to provide, technologically speaking, those kind of real-time interaction services towards the customer or towards service partners then acting towards the customers. Can you just give us a short glimpse of the importance and difficulty of connecting, those older systems? A short glimpse.
How many hours I have for it? No, I mean, joking apart, to be honest, this was probably the most difficult challenge at the beginning, because in such an organization like this, you could imagine that from local, central, region, all of them say they have an opinion. I know you can use the existing system, or you can build a new one, do an RFP with 25 applications. So it was a nightmare, to be honest. Yeah. The good thing is that, in my opinion, we choose properly. So in a business like this, you have to, that the company does not know, because otherwise we're already done. It's completely new. We started with device insurance, for example, with micro-mobility later, and so on. You should be, let me say, free to test properly, without dependencies, reusing as much as possible what is in the market, and doing this, let me say, constant piloting and performance to grow approach, Okay. And we choose a complete separate stack. This was, as you could imagine, a nightmare to be approved.
Yeah.
But when we received it, then we moved very fast. And now let me say that is where we are in the moment, where we have such a maturity that we can discuss and say, part of this blueprint could be shared with the traditional business, like the CRM, like the let me say, new customer capability like chat, or let me say, intelligent artificial. But let me say that if we did that reusing the existing capability, today I'm not here, I'm sure.
Stefano, thank you very much for your impressions, and let's switch over to another country, to another position, and to another role. Please welcome Benjamin. Benjamin is head of IT and automation at a Belgian insurer called Ethias. And Benjamin is in charge of one of those core strategy definitions and roles that today is so important in large organizations, being in charge of real automation, of how to generate value towards the customer and how to cut costs in terms of being more efficient and doing more stuff in shorter amount of time. So today those are, I believe, those are words which are written down by all the huge consultancy agencies and all the strategic plans of all the larger carriers in the field. And I really would like to get your insights on certain projects or possible projects right now you guys are working on, because it's so fascinating, the different kind of approaches in terms of automation that the different and largest insurers are having. So what are you working on?
Yeah, for sure. It's a very interesting topic, and we have a lot of challenges with intelligent automation. And as Stefano said, first, we need to serve our customers. And so we need to keep in mind that our customers are the first one to be served, and then we provide intelligent automation solutions in order to provide services and to help them. We don't do the other thing around. Yeah. And so we did very interesting stuff in the past years. But intelligent automation, in fact, it's not. Yes, it was not created a long time ago, because Ethias is a 100-year-old insurer in Belgium, active in B2B, in B2C, in life insurance, in non-life insurance. And yes, during 100 years old, it was mostly paper. And so we still have paper. We still have paper for customers. And so when we started automating, we decided, okay, what will be our first focus? And so the first focus was on documents, intelligent processing of documents, because it's still a painful process. And so we did several projects. We did first some projects with RPA, so robotic process automation, in order to automate some processing, but it was simple digital workers, realizing repetitive tasks, so not very fancy. Afterwards, we decided, okay, we have motor claims, and motor claims, it's a painful process for customers. Really, they have to fill the European accident form with a lot of data, with their car, with their insurance number, the different circumstances of the accident, a lot of boxes to tick, a drawing to make, and so what can we do? At the beginning, we thought, okay, most of our customers, they send their European accident form by post. And so we decided to set up a solution where we extract all those data with text recognition, visual recognition, in order to predict the barimas and the liabilities, and to integrate all those information within our backend. It's one step. It's one step because, okay, now we are more and more digital, and so we need to think about the customer journey. And the customer journey is hybrid. And we say at ETIAS that we are phygital. So both in the physical world and in the digital world. And so the customer journey can mix both. And we need to take into account that the customer, some customer will send their FNOL, first notice of loss, in the app. Others will send it by post. Others will send a picture by mail. And so we need to take into account all those different channels and to concentrate all those data together in order to let the different kind of customer able to see what is the status of my claim.
Well, what you're talking about, and this is why automation is so powerful if you use it right, is the possibility of providing some kind of omni-channel approach or some kind of omni-channel feeling to the customer itself.
And it's really crucial because, yes, we want to be digital first, and we say, okay, we are going to provide a nice app with a nice user-friendly interface. But in fact, customers, they are, yes, going in a regional office, yes, working with a broker, and we are leader in the public sector. And in the public sector, they are not all digital native.
Yeah.
And so we need to provide them, yes, different ways of communication.
Well,
and so when we automate, it's really important to think about all those different aspects.
Well, you've mentioned quite a lot of complexity, lots of business lines, lots of different kind of distribution channels with different kind of dynamics, public sectors, analogic channels, digital channels, partnerships. And automation is not always, or you cannot always use the same mechanisms in all those channels. One of the huge tasks or challenges is to come up with mechanisms that fit the biggest number of channels, or that fit the biggest number of inquiries that you have to talk about. Tell me a little bit about your strategy of how to come up with certain specific activities that address those needs.
Of course, before starting a project, we need to think about there will be a business case or not. And so we need to really realize, yes, data analysis, it's crucial when you automate, because you need a lot of data and data with a high quality. Now it will change, because with generative AI, okay, you will be able to generate additional data. You will be able not to label everything, because when you want to extract a document, data from a document, when it's was a complex one. You had to ask someone in your company or elsewhere, you can outsource it, to say, okay, this field, it's, yes, the amount. This field is the name.
Yeah.
Now it will be different. Yeah. And so we need to rethink our approach in order to automate.
I know it for myself, it's a very difficult task to implement in large operations, organizations. I'm happy to get a little bit of an insight of that. I would like to switch over to Lars, our last guest. And I'm very happy to have Lars on board because Lars is in charge as a chief digital officer. Yeah, it's chief digital officer of an insurance carrier which is actually based in Qatar. So being a German with a European mindset, with European trajectory, now in charge of a model in a whole different region, I would like to extract a little bit from you your view on the customer in that specific region and how all those different kind of digital interactions are working in those areas, and what are you guys doing right now in order to interact in a more efficient way?
So thank you for the possibility to talk about this. Quickly about QSC, because it's not a name that is widely known in the European ecosystem. QSC is the leading insurer in the Middle East, but they only do 40% of our premiums in the Middle East. 60% is through Antares, which is the reinsurance and Lloyd's broker. So it's, yes, I'll talk from Qatar, but it's really the whole ecosystem they're talking about. And if you asked about MENA, and I think MENA has two components. One is Middle East, and one is North Africa. The combination is the language and the religion in the end. But the two areas are working totally differently. So Middle East, as most people get aware, right, is a richer area where a lot of money is spent. Yeah? While North Africa is still an area where it's rather an emerging country. The solutions to attract clients is the same. You need convenient solutions. Have you heard about this? This is actually the same, right? So you go out, you find your right customer, and you are fast in getting them convinced, right? The difference to other markets is that in most of our markets, clients are not educated in terms of insurance. We have an insurance under-penetration. So the values that we have to transmit are different. It's still the same way, right? Everybody has a smartphone. Everybody's ordering food. But can we get them in ordering food in the same way that they're ordering a car insurance? Most probably we can. Right? So, and there's a challenge that we're having. How do we convince with the right arguments our clients? And on top of this, I'm not sure, I didn't know, but I've learned about it. If you look into the Middle East countries, 90% of the population are expats. And an expat, you look at Lars and say, yes, Lars is an expat, but they're expats from India, Pakistan, and the Philippines as well. So you actually have to develop products that have really different specifics and needs for our customers. Yeah. And you still sell this through the same channels. So that's a challenge we are facing. So it's fun. It's really a fun area to work on.
That's interesting. I'm curious about that region, how you collaborate. I don't know, among carriers, with solution providers, with service companies. Because you have the benefit of having an European mindset, European experience, for sure, European contacts in terms of service providers or technology that you have implemented in other places. So how do you guys manage to extract that value, bring that over, and implement it in a way which is suitable to the local markets?
Yeah. So when we started the journey, I've worked with Stephanie from Zurich before. Obviously, I have a little bit of experience. My first digital MGA was in the year 2000, right? So it goes back. So I've been exposed to technology, and building MGA in 2000, this was a year-long journey, and now we're getting propositions out in weeks, right? So that's the difference. So coming to the Middle East, I've actually tried to build a team around me that has the possibilities to come from a different ecosystem. So we have people here from France, from Morocco, we have people in the management team from Asia. So we have learned all in different ecosystems. And then the idea was, yeah, we have learned, we bring things to the region. And we found out, well, we could potentially do this, but actually the region is really different. So you cannot adapt. What you can do is the learnings that you have, try to put it in. And we do this in two levels. One is, we founded as QSC, a unit that is called QSC Digital Venture Partners, where we are building our own insurtechs. Why do we do this?
Okay.
Because in the industry, in the region itself, there's not enough digital talent there, nor interesting insurtech. So we have to build. So we go along. We do things on our side. And we have built a CVC unit, a unit that actually invests into insurtechs that help us to build faster. So the moment, this is what we did in the past, but also with you, right? The moment you get a technology partner in our startup, you're increasing their equity value. Just having the name of Zurich QRC in there. So we're helping to get part of this, but also we are helping them to grow. So this is one area, QRC Digital Venture Partners. And as the countries are relatively small, you cannot just be in one country, right? It's not Spain, right? All the countries together have the size of Spain. So you have to build something big. The whole MENA region has 450 million people. So yes, you have scale if you do it right, but you have to do cross-border scale, which is a challenge itself. So what we built is on top of what the organization of QRC is doing, the MENA InsurTech Association. We are combining other insurance and carriers with InsurTechs, with the possibility to be a regulator influencer. So this is all together. So yeah, it's an ecosystem work that we're doing, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, it's good to see that there are places on Earth that are to be explored yet, and places where solution providers can go to today and try to do some pitches, which eventually will lead up to some value. You were talking about. Don't interrupt him right now. You were talking about 90% of expats. You were talking about having around you teams which are coming from different countries, different cultures, all over the world, in Europe and the US, and as well in your region, I can imagine. There is a huge, let me say, lack of being able to attract the right talent, maintain it, put in the right mindset in order to, everybody go into the same direction, trying to work hard onto certain issues and attract those skills which are absolutely necessary in order to do a difference. What is your experience on this extent and vast topic? We don't have an hour, but I do think that this is one of the main levers in order to conceive something.
It's a challenge for us, and actually in the Insurtech conference we did back then 4 weeks ago, and we had a topic about talent versus AI. Can we actually replace the missing talent with using more AI? And we came to the conclusion most probably we can. But yes, I think the challenge that we're having is in a region like Europe or the States, you have a couple of Insurtechs that work, so you have trained people in it. You have even more companies that have failed, so you have a lot of people that have experience in Insurtechs. We didn't have this in the region. It's one of the reasons we are building, because we need more things. We need to expose our ecosystem with it. And the second area, how we attract people into it in the Insurtech scene, because it's really a particular area of work, right? You need to get used to it, what we're doing, and understand it. It's not fintech. We always tell people, say Insurtech is fintech. And no, it's worlds apart. There's one thing, this paper-based mathematics, that's it, right? So it's different. So what we did, we have been running a MENA-wide Insurtech competition. So finding the best Insurtechs in the wider region, give them exposure. And as such, we did this last year, we had 150 people or companies in there. We did this year, we had 320 people or companies in there. So actually we are exposing the whole ecosystem to what is new, what can be done, and it can be done. I think the panel before us, we had 2 companies that actually have been with us in our Insurtech conference, Lami as well. So it's all about passion. It's showing them there is a way forward. You actually can earn money. And yes, it's not an easy thing. It's not just adding clicks on Get AdWords, right? It's insurance. So you need a brain for this. It's in the passion.
Lars, Graham, Benjamin, and Stefano, thank you guys very much. And I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of the conversation. Have a good afternoon.